Hi everyone, welcome to another video. You can see I'm wearing my beanie today because it is cold at my house. Alrighty, so today's study design dot point, we are looking at the significance, importance of one High Court case in interpreting Section 7 and 24 of the Constitution. Okay, so we look at the study design here. We've just done our checks on Parliament and we're looking at this dot point here. So significance, one High Court case in interpreting Section 7 and 24 of the Constitution. You need to make sure that you can quote Section 7 and 24. It's mandated, so please make sure you know these sections. Okay, so in order to understand the importance of one High Court case in interpreting these two sections, it's good to know a little bit of background information. Okay, so to start with, we often talk about structural protections in the Constitution. Now, structural protections means what are things written in the Constitution that can indirectly protect people from the abuse of power by the government. Okay, some of the structural protections that we have in the Constitution include the concept of representative government and responsible government. This basically means that our government, our Commonwealth Parliament, and our state governments should be regularly elected by the people of Australia to represent them. Okay, so that's what we talk about when we talk about representative government. Okay, so in the Constitution, we have two parts that specifically define representative government for the Australian Parliament, so for the Commonwealth Government. And these two sections are known as Section 7 and 24, which we can see here. Okay, so representative government is outlined by Section 7, which states the following things. The Senate shall be directly composed of senators for each state and directly chosen by the people. The second section is Section 24, which says the House of Representatives should be composed of members directly chosen by the people. Okay, so these two sections directly outline representative government for Commonwealth Parliaments only. So we're only looking at Commonwealth Parliament. Okay, so let's look at a case study that actually talked about these two sections and actually kind of confirmed representative government. Now, maybe back in year 11, you might have touched on this concept of FIDS. So we're going to do FIDS today, which basically means that when you get an exam question that asks you the significance or importance of a question, you have to do the following thing. You have to say the facts of a case, so who, what, where. You have to say the issue, what's the legal problem. You have to say the decision of the court. So what we mean by that is what did the court finally rule about? And lastly, you have to say why the case is important. Okay, so if you get a question that's like, explain the significance of one High Court case in interpreting Section 7 and 24 of the Constitution, you will need to do the following things. So we're going to look at a case that you may remember from year 11 known as the Roach vs. Electoral Commission 2007. I'm not sure why there's a little dot there. That's an annoying grammar mistake. Now, let's talk about the facts of this case. In 2006, the Commonwealth Parliament of the time passed some legislation which prohibited convicted and sentenced criminals from voting in elections completely. Prior to this, so prior to 2006, prisoners who had been sentenced under 3 years were still able to participate in Australian elections. Okay. However, this legislation changed that to restrict all prisoners. A woman called Vicky Lee Roach, who was an Indigenous lady, who was serving 6 years of imprisonment at the time, and therefore was directly related to this issue, chose to challenge this in Parliament, saying that it directly affected her ability to participate in representative government in Australia. She challenged the validity of this law, okay, and whether or not it actually had implications for Section 7 and 24. So what was the issue? Well, Roach challenged the validity of the amendments made in 2006 to the Electoral Act, which prohibited people who were serving a term of imprisonment from voting in elections. What did the High Court decide? Well, after listening to her case, the High Court held that the amendments were actually inconsistent with the idea of representative government, which was established in the Constitution by these two sections. The court held that Section 7 and 24 of the Constitution did require the Houses of Parliament to be directly chosen by the people, and that this right could be limited only for substantial reasons. So they actually overturned the amendments, and it went back to the original legislation, which said that prisoners under 3 years were still allowed to participate in voting in Australia. Vicky Lee Roach, unfortunately, was serving a 6-year prison sentence. So what that meant was she still wasn't able to participate. However, it did do a couple of significant things. Firstly, it upheld the structural protections of the right for the Parliament to be directly chosen by the people. And it confirmed the concept of representative government. The government shouldn't limit people's ability to participate in representative government or voting for a representative government to a certain extent. It was not a right to vote. We still don't have a right to vote written in the Constitution. However, it did confirm the concept of representative. But it also meant that the Australian or the Commonwealth Parliament can restrict some areas of voting in some specific circumstances. So, but only for substantial reasons. So they thought it was substantial enough that if you've been in prison for longer than 3 years, you probably harmed Australian society in some sort of way, and therefore that was significant enough to restrict the right of those people to participate in representative government. So that's kind of the case that looked at Section 7 and 24. We'll finish up there in terms of it. Nice quick one today. Make sure you learn this. Thank you.